The underestimated janitor. In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Galaxy, galactic hub station Epsilon 9 hung like a glittering jewel against the backdrop of countless stars. Its sleek, curved architecture was a testament to the advanced technology of the Galactic Confederation, a coalition of alien races that had achieved interstellar travel centuries ago. Among the bustle of diverse alien species that called Epsilon 9 home, one particular figure stood out, not for his appearance, but for how unremarkable he seemed. Jack Carter, a human in his mid-30s with tousled brown hair and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, pushed his cleaning cart down the gleaming corridors of the station's lower levels. To the various alien races that passed him by, Jack was nothing more than a curiosity. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel barely 2 decades ago. Their inclusion in the Galactic Confederation was still a topic of heated debate in the upper echelons of alien politics. "Watch where you're going, Dirk Scrubber," growled a towering Zornax, its 4 eyes glaring down at Jack as it shouldered past him. Jack sidestepped, narrowly avoiding a collision with his cart. "Sorry about that," he muttered, knowing full well the Zornax probably couldn't even hear his response. Their auditory range was far above human speech. As he continued his rounds, Jack couldn't help but feel the weight of alien stares. Some were curious, others dismissive, and a few outright hostile. Humanity's reputation in the galaxy was less than stellar. They were seen as primitive, barely out of their planetary cradle, and many questioned the wisdom of allowing them access to advanced alien technology. Jack sighed, focusing on his work. He'd taken this job for a reason, even if it meant enduring daily doses of alien condescension. As he cleaned, his eyes darted around, taking in every detail of the station's inner workings. What the aliens didn't know, what they couldn't even begin to suspect, was that Jack Carter was far more than a simple janitor. Hours passed, and Jack's shift was nearing its end when a commotion near the station's central hub caught his attention. A group of Praxian merchants, their tentacles waving in agitation, were arguing loudly with a station security officer. "Telling you, something's not right," one of the Praxians insisted, its bioluminescent skin flashing in patterns of distress. "Our sensor readings are off the charts. There's a massive energy buildup somewhere on this station." The security officer, a bored-looking Kaldari with metallic scales, simply shrugged its shoulders. "Our systems show no such anomaly. Perhaps your equipment is malfunctioning." Jack slowed his pace, pretending to clean a particularly stubborn spot on the floor while he eavesdropped. Energy buildup. That didn't sound good. As the argument continued, Jack noticed something odd. A faint vibration, almost imperceptible, was traveling through the station's floor. He'd worked here long enough to know the normal rhythms and tremors of Epsilon 9. This was different. Trusting his instincts, Jack abandoned his cleaning cart and made his way to a maintenance hatch. With a quick glance to ensure no one was watching, he slipped inside, descending into the labyrinthine underbelly of the station. The deeper he went, the stronger the vibration became. Jack's mind raced, piecing together fragments of information he gathered over months of careful observation. The station's power core, the experimental quantum reactor that the Confederation's scientists were so proud of, could it be malfunctioning? As he approached the central engineering sector, alarms began to blare. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow. Jack broke into a run, his heart pounding. He rounded a corner and skidded to a halt, eyes widening at the scene before him. The massive doors to the reactor chamber were sealed shut, but even through the thick metal, Jack could see flashes of blinding light. A group of alien engineers huddled nearby, their faces or equivalent sensory organs showing clear signs of panic. "It's overloading," shouted a Tellarite engineer, its crystalline body vibrating with fear. "The containment field is failing. We need to evacuate the station immediately." Jack's mind whirled. An overloading quantum reactor could vaporize half the sector. Thousands of lives, both alien and human, were at stake. He had to do something. Stepping forward, Jack cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "I think I might be able to help." The aliens turned to look at him, expressions ranging from confusion to outright derision. "You," scoffed a Mendaxian, its gelatinous form rippling with amusement. "What could a primitive human possibly do in this situation? Go back to your cleaning, ape. Let the real scientists handle this." Jack met the Mendaxian's gaze coolly. "With all due respect," he said, emphasizing each word, "I have some experience with quantum mechanics. If you'll just let me take a look at your control systems, I might be able to offer a solution." The aliens exchanged glances, clearly skeptical, but as another violent tremor shook the station, the Tellarite engineer made a decision. "Fine," it said, gesturing towards a nearby console. "It's not like you can make things any worse, but be quick about it." Jack nodded, hurrying to the console. His fingers flew over the alien interface, years of covert study allowing him to navigate the complex systems with surprising ease. The aliens watched in growing amazement as this simple human janitor displayed a depth of knowledge that rivaled their own experts. "There," Jack muttered, more to himself than the onlookers. "The problem isn't in the reactor itself. It's in the coolant system. Someone or something has introduced a foreign element that's causing a cascading reaction." He turned to the engineers. "We need to purge the entire coolant system and reroute power through the auxiliary generators. It'll be risky, but it's our only shot at preventing a total meltdown." For a moment, no one moved. Then, the Tellarite engineer sprang into action. "You heard him," it shouted to its team. "Let's move." What followed was a frantic race against time. Jack worked alongside the alien engineers, his hands steady even as the station shuddered around them. He called out instructions, guiding the team through the complex procedure with authority that belied his supposed station in life. As the final seconds ticked down, Jack held his breath. The reactor's glow intensified, and for one heart-stopping moment, he thought they had failed. Then, with a great groan of protesting metal, the light began to fade. The vibrations subsided, and an eerie silence fell over the engineering bay. Slowly, tentatively, cheers began to rise from the assembled aliens. They had done it. The station was saved. As the initial euphoria subsided, all eyes turned to Jack. The human janitor stood there, covered in sweat and grime, looking utterly exhausted but quietly triumphant. The Mendaxian who had dismissed him earlier floated forward, its gelatinous form quivering with what might have been embarrassment. How did you know how to do that?" it asked. Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Let's just say there's more to us humans than meets the eye," he replied cryptically. Before anyone could question him further, alarms began to blare once more. But these were different, not the warning klaxons of impending disaster, but the shrill cry of a security alert. "Attention all personnel," boomed a voice over the station's comm system. "We have detected unauthorized access to restricted systems. Security teams are en route to engineering. All personnel are to remain where they are and prepare for questioning." Jack's smile faded. He knew this moment would come eventually, but he had hoped for more time. He turned to the stunned alien engineers. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "but I can't stick around for those questions. Thank you for trusting me, even if it was only because you had no other choice." With that, Jack Carter, the unassuming human janitor who had just saved an entire space station, turned and sprinted towards a nearby maintenance shaft. By the time the security teams arrived, he had vanished into the depths of Epsilon 9, leaving behind a group of very confused aliens and the first ripples of a change that would soon sweep across the galaxy. As he navigated the hidden passages of the station, Jack's mind raced. His cover was blown, but his mission was far from over. The sabotage of the reactor was no accident. It was just the beginning of something much bigger. And somehow, Jack knew, humanity was at the center of it all. The Galactic Confederation had underestimated humans for the last time. Jack allowed himself a grim smile as he plotted his next move. They had no idea what was coming. Rising to the challenge, the corridors of Epsilon 9's lower levels echoed with the sound of heavy footfalls and urgent alien voices. Security teams, comprised of various species, swept through the station, their advanced scanners probing every shadow and crevice for signs of the elusive human janitor who had miraculously averted disaster, and then vanished without a trace. Deep within the bowels of the station, in a forgotten maintenance hub that hadn't seen use in decades, Jack Carter caught his breath. His heart raced, not just from the physical exertion of his escape, but from the gravity of his situation. Years of careful undercover work, gathering intel on the Galactic Confederation's most closely guarded secrets, all of it threatened to unravel in a single day. But as he calmed his breathing, a wry smile played across Jack's lips. Maybe this was exactly the push humanity needed to finally step out of the shadows. A soft beep from his wrist communicator broke the silence. Jack glanced down at the device, cleverly disguised as a cheap timepiece that no one would look twice at. A single word flashed on its screen: Q1VELGNCE. Jack's expression hardened. It was time. With practiced ease, he tapped out a coded response, confirming his status and location. Within moments, a schematic of the station appeared on the tiny screen, highlighting a path through seldom-used maintenance tunnels and access shafts, his extraction point. As Jack prepared to move, a noise from the corridor outside froze him in place. Voices drawing nearer. "Telling you, I picked up a heat signature in this sector," came a gravelly voice that Jack recognized as belonging to a Drath, a species known for their heightened sensory abilities. "And I'm telling you, nothing could have gotten this deep without tripping a dozen alarms," replied another voice, this one with the distinct harmonics of a Loraxian security officer. Jack's mind raced. The Drath's heat-sensing capabilities would make hiding nearly impossible. He needed a distraction, and fast. Glancing around the dimly lit hub, his eyes fell on an old power coupling. An idea formed, dangerous but potentially effective. With quick, precise movements, Jack crossed to the coupling and began to work, his fingers dancing over the alien technology with practiced ease. Just as the voices outside reached a fever pitch, Jack completed his improvised sabotage. Sparks flew from the coupling, followed by a cascade of system failures that plunged the entire sector into darkness. Emergency klaxons blared as the security team outside burst into chaos. In the confusion, Jack slipped past them, a shadow among shadows. He moved with purpose, following the escape route laid out on his communicator. But as he neared his extraction point, a new complication arose. A group of civilians, a mix of various alien species, huddled in a junction, clearly lost and panicked by the sudden blackout and alarms. Among them, Jack spotted a familiar face: Zara, a young Praxian he'd often seen working in the station's hydroponics bay. Unlike her elders who had dismissed humanity, Zara had always treated Jack with kindness, even going so far as to learn a few words of English to greet him. Jack hesitated. Every instinct honed by years of covert ops screamed at him to keep moving, to prioritize the mission above all else. But something else, something quintessentially human, made him pause. With a muttered curse that would have shocked his alien acquaintances, Jack changed course. "This way," he called out, his voice cutting through the pandemonium. The group turned, startled by the appearance of a human in the restricted area. "Follow me if you want to get to safety." For a moment, no one moved. Then Zara, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with a mix of fear and hope, stepped forward. "Jack, what are you doing here?" "No time to explain," Jack replied, gesturing urgently. "We need to move now." Perhaps it was the authority in his voice, or simply the desperation of their situation, but the aliens fell in line behind Jack. He led them through a maze of corridors and access tubes, deftly avoiding security patrols and malfunctioning systems. As they moved, Jack's mind whirled with possibilities. His extraction was blown, but maybe, just maybe, he could turn this into an advantage. These aliens, seeing a human in a new light, could be the start of something bigger. Their progress was halted at a sealed bulkhead. Jack examined the locking mechanism, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Allow me," came a timid voice from the back of the group. A Volcran, its tentacles waving nervously, stepped forward. I work in cybersecurity. I might be able to bypass the lock." Jack nodded, stepping aside. As the Volcran worked, he turned to address the group. "Listen up," he said, his voice low but firm. "I know you're all scared and confused, but right now, we need to work together if we're going to survive this." A Keldari, its metallic scales glinting in the emergency lighting, hissed in displeasure. "Survive what, human? What exactly is happening to this station?" Jack met the alien's gaze steadily. "I'm not entirely sure," he admitted, "but I know it's big, and I know it threatens everyone on this station, human and alien alike." Before anyone could respond, the bulkhead hissed open. The Volcran stepped back, a mixture of pride and surprise on its face. It worked. "Good job," Jack said, clapping the alien on what he hoped was its shoulder. "Now, let's move." As they continued their journey through the station's underbelly, Jack began to piece together a plan. He couldn't make his original extraction point, but maybe he could do something even better. If he could get this group to the station's secondary command center, they might be able to uncover the truth behind the reactor sabotage, and in doing so, change the galaxy's perception of humanity. Their path took them through increasingly complex and restricted areas of the station. More than once, they had to backtrack or hide from security patrols. But with each obstacle overcome, Jack noticed a change in the group's dynamics. Species that normally kept their distance were working together, pooling their unique abilities to solve problems. As they neared the secondary command center, a massive tremor shook the station. Alarms, different from before, began to blare. "Warning," came an automated voice over the station's comm system. "Hull breach detected in sectors 7 through 9. Emergency force fields failing. All personnel evacuate immediately." Panic rippled through the group. Jack raised his voice to be heard over the din. "Everyone, stay calm. We're almost there. Just a little further and we can figure out what's really going on." But as they rounded the final corner, they found their path blocked. A security team, led by the same Mendaxian who had dismissed Jack in engineering, stood before the entrance to the command center. "Halt!" the Mendaxian bellowed, its gelatinous form rippling with authority. "By order of station security, you are all under arrest for trespassing in restricted areas during a station-wide emergency." Jack stepped forward, his hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Listen," he said, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "I know how this looks, but right now, we don't have time for arrests or interrogations. This station is under attack, and I believe the answers we need are behind that door." The Mendaxian's eyes narrowed. "And why should we believe you, human? For all we know, you're behind this entire catastrophe." Before Jack could respond, Zara pushed her way to the front of the group. Her bioluminescent skin flashed in patterns that Jack recognized as indicators of strong emotion. "Because he saved us," she exclaimed, her translated voice ringing with conviction. "When everything was falling apart, when your security teams were nowhere to be found, Jack led us to safety. He could have left us behind, but he didn't. That has to count for something." A murmur of agreement rose from the group. Even some members of the security team looked uncertain. The Mendaxian wavered, its gelatinous form undulating with indecision. Another violent tremor shook the station, as if underlining the urgency of the situation. "Fine," the Mendaxian said at last, "but I'm watching you, human. One wrong move, and you'll spend the rest of your short life in the deepest, darkest hole we can find." Jack nodded, relief washing over him. "Understood. Now, let's see what we're really up against." As the doors to the secondary command center slid open, the group was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with damage reports and system diagnostics. In the center of it all stood a figure that made Jack's blood run cold. Admiral Xanthar, leader of the Confederation's most secretive and ruthless Black Ops division, turned to face them, his 4 eyes narrowed as they fell on Jack. Well, the Admiral said, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. It seems our little experiment has yielded some unexpected results. Jack's mind raced. Xanthar's presence confirmed his worst fears. This was no accident or simple act of sabotage. This was something much, much bigger. Admiral, Jack said, fighting to keep his voice steady. What's really going on here? Xanthar's lipless mouth curved into what might have been a smile on a human face. On the Admiral's features, it looked more like a predator baring its teeth. What's going on, Mr. Carter, is the next stage in galactic evolution, and humanity, despite its primitive nature, has proven to be the key. With a wave of his hand, Xanthar brought up a new holographic display. It showed the station, surrounded by a strange energy field that seemed to be growing stronger by the second. You see, Xanthar continued, his voice taking on the tone of a lecturer addressing a particularly slow class. We've known for some time that humans possess unique qualities. Your adaptability, your creativity, your sheer, stubborn refusal to accept defeat. They're unlike anything we've seen in our millennia of space exploration. Jack's eyes narrowed. So the reactor malfunction, the hull breach, it was all a test. Xanthar nodded, looking almost pleased. Precisely. We needed to see how humans would react under extreme stress, in situations far beyond their supposed capabilities. And you, Mr. Carter, have exceeded our wildest expectations. The Admiral turned to address the stunned group of aliens. What you've witnessed today is just the beginning. The energy field surrounding this station is a crucible of sorts. It's amplifying and accelerating human potential, unlocking abilities that have lain dormant for millennia. As if on cue, Jack felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. He looked down at his hands, shocked to see faint traces of energy dancing across his skin. Zara gasped, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in astonishment. Jack, you're glowing. Xanthar's expression turned triumphant. You see, the human's latent abilities are manifesting. Soon, he'll be capable of feats that would put our most advanced technology to shame. But as the energy coursing through Jack intensified, so did his anger. You risked thousands of lives, alien and human alike, for an experiment, he growled, taking a step towards Xanthar. The Admiral held up a hand, unfazed by Jack's display. A necessary risk for the greater good of the galaxy. Humanity's potential, properly harnessed, could usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. Or it could lead to our enslavement, Jack countered, the energy around him pulsing in sync with his emotions. I won't let you turn us into weapons. Xanthar's eyes narrowed. You don't have a choice, Mr. Carter. The process has already begun, and soon, every human in this sector will undergo the same transformation. Imagine it, a force of evolved humans, loyal to the Confederation, keeping the peace across the galaxy. Jack shook his head, his mind reeling from the implications. He turned to the group of aliens who had followed him, seeing fear, awe, and confusion on their faces. In that moment, he knew he had to make a stand, not just for humanity, but for all the species who called this galaxy home. You're wrong, Admiral, Jack said, his voice steady despite the maelstrom of energy swirling around him. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in some hidden superpower. It's in our ability to bring people together, to find common ground even in the face of impossible odds. He gestured to the diverse group behind him. Look at what we accomplished today. Different species working together, overcoming challenges that none of us could have faced alone. That's the real power you should be harnessing. For a moment, doubt flickered across Xanthar's alien features, but it was quickly replaced by cold determination. A quaint sentiment, Mr. Carter. But sentiment won't keep the peace in a galaxy torn by ancient conflicts and new threats. Power will. And you, whether you like it or not, are about to become the most powerful weapon in the Confederation's arsenal. With a flick of his wrist, Xanthar activated a device on his arm. The energy field around the station intensified, and Jack fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sudden surge of power coursing through him. As his vision began to blur, Jack saw his alien companions rushing to his aid, defying Xanthar's orders to stand back. In that moment of crisis, species that had long viewed each other with suspicion or disdain were united in a common cause. Jack's last conscious thought, before the world around him exploded in a blinding flash of light, was a mixture of hope and determination. Whatever came next, he knew that the true strength of humanity, and of all sentient beings, lay not in raw power, but in the connections they forged with one another. As darkness claimed him, Jack Carter, the unassuming human janitor who had become the linchpin of galactic change, allowed himself a small smile. The real battle was just beginning. The quantum nexus awakens. The blinding light that had engulfed Jack Carter faded, revealing a scene that defied comprehension. The secondary command center of Epsilon 9 had vanished, replaced by a vast, shimmering expanse that seemed to exist outside of normal space-time. Tendrils of energy, pulsing with every color imaginable and some that had never been seen before, wove intricate patterns through the air. Jack floated in this impossible space, his body thrumming with power. Nearby, he could see his alien companions, Zora the Praxian, the Volcrin cybersecurity expert, the skeptical Keldari, and others, suspended in similar states of bewilderment. "Welcome," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, to the quantum nexus. Before them materialized a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and changing. One moment it appeared humanoid, the next it resembled a Zornax, then a Tellarite, cycling through countless alien forms. What are you?" Jack managed to ask, his voice echoing strangely in the non-space around them. The entity's form settled briefly into something resembling a classic, grey alien from old Earth sci-fi. "We are the architects," it said, its voice a symphony of harmonics. "We seeded the galaxy with life eons ago, waiting for the day when a species would evolve to unlock the true potential of the universe." Jack's mind reeled. "And that species is humans." The architect's form shifted again, this time taking on a mirror image of Jack himself. "Not exactly," it replied. "Humanity is the key, the catalyst that will awaken the dormant abilities in all sentient beings. Your unique neural patterns, when properly stimulated, create a cascading effect across the quantum foam of reality itself." Zara, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with a mixture of awe and confusion, spoke up. "But why now? Why choose this moment to reveal yourselves?" The architect turned its attention to the young Praxian, its form morphing to match her own. "Because the galaxy stands on the brink of a catastrophe greater than any you can imagine. The experiment conducted by Admiral Xanthar, misguided though it was, inadvertently activated the quantum nexus, and now a choice must be made." With a wave of its ever-changing appendage, the architect conjured a series of holographic images. They showed scenes of devastation, worlds consumed by fire, entire solar systems collapsing into singularities, and at the center of it all, a darkness that seemed to devour light itself. "The void," the architect explained, its voice heavy with foreboding. "An ancient enemy that exists between realities. It has sensed the awakening of the quantum nexus and now hunges to consume all of existence. Only by unlocking the full potential of all sentient beings can it be stopped." Jack felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "And you think we're capable of stopping this void?" The architect's form flickered, cycling rapidly through the appearances of everyone present. "Alone? No. But together, united across species and empowered by the quantum nexus, you have a chance." However, it continued, its voice taking on a note of warning. "This power comes with great risk. If misused, it could tear the very fabric of reality apart. The choice of how to proceed lies with you." Jack looked around his companions, seeing the same mix of fear, determination, and hope reflected in their alien faces that he felt in his own heart. In that moment, he knew what had to be done. "We'll do it," Jack said, his voice steady. "But not as weapons or tools of any one faction. We'll face this threat as equals, each species bringing its own strengths to the fight." The architect's form settled into a radiant being of pure light. "A wise choice," it said, approval evident in its tone. "Then let the awakening begin." With those words, the quantum nexus pulsed with blinding intensity. Jack felt power beyond imagination coursing through him, rewriting the very essence of his being. Around him, he could sense his alien companions undergoing similar transformations. Zora's bioluminescence expanded, creating complex patterns that seemed to manipulate the very fabric of space-time. The Vulcrin's tentacles split and multiplied, each new appendage capable of interfacing with and controlling technology on a fundamental level. The Caldari's metallic scales shifted and realigned, forming impenetrable armor that adapted instantly to any threat. As for Jack, he felt his consciousness expanding, touching minds across vast distances. Images and sensations flooded his awareness. He could see the swirling storms of gas giants in distant systems, feel the heat of stars being born, and sense the intricate web of quantum connections that linked all things. Just as the power threatened to overwhelm him, Jack felt a steadying presence. The architect's voice echoed in his mind. "Remember, young one, this power is not meant for one being alone. It is the unity of all sentient life that will be your true strength." With a final pulse of energy, the quantum nexus began to fade. Reality reasserted itself, and Jack found himself back in the secondary command center of Epsilon 9. But everything had changed. Admiral Xanthar stared at them in shock, his earlier bravado replaced by naked fear. What have you done?" he stammered. Jack stepped forward, energy crackling around him like a living aura. "We've evolved," he said simply. "Not just humans, but all of us, and none too soon, it seems." As if in response to his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a sight that chilled everyone to their core. A massive, swerving vortex of absolute darkness was forming at the edge of the solar system, swallowing stars and planets in its wake. "The void," Zara whispered, her newly enhanced bioluminescence pulsing with foreboding patterns. "It's here." Jack turned to face his companions, his eyes glowing with newfound power and determination. "This is what we were awakened for," he said, his voice carrying an authority that transcended species. "The greatest threat our galaxy, our universe, has ever faced. But we won't face it alone." He reached out, both physically and with his newly expanded consciousness, connecting with each of his companions. Human, Praxian, Vulcrin, Caldari, and every other species out there, we're in this together. Our differences don't divide us, they make us stronger. As the group linked hands, or tentacles, or appendages, a surge of shared power flowed between them. The architect's final words echoed in their minds. "The fate of all realities rests in your hands. Go forth, children of the quantum nexus, and may your unity light the way through the darkness to come." With a shared nod of determination, the newly empowered group turned to face the view screen. The void loomed ever larger, a cosmic horror beyond imagination. But as they stood united, beings of a dozen different species linked in common cause, a spark of hope ignited. The battle for existence itself was about to begin, and at its heart stood an unlikely band of heroes, proof that even in the darkest hour, the combined strength of diversity could shine like a beacon across the cosmos. The cosmic harmonic convergence. As the void's tendrils of absolute darkness stretched across the solar system, consuming everything in their path, Jack Carter and his diverse team of newly empowered beings stood united on the bridge of Epsilon 9. The station, once a symbol of alien bureaucracy, now pulsed with the raw energy of the quantum nexus. "We need a plan," Jack said, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "Any ideas?" Zara, her bioluminescent patterns now resembling intricate star maps, stepped forward. I think I can see the underlying structure of the void, she said, her voice filled with wonder. It's not just darkness, it's anti-existence, a negation of reality itself. The Vulcrin, its tentacles now interfaced directly with the station's systems, chimed in. Our conventional weapons are useless against it, but perhaps we can fight it on a quantum level. Jack nodded, an idea forming in his mind. The architects said our unity was our strength. What if we take that literally? He turned to address the group, his eyes glowing with cosmic energy. Each of us represents a unique facet of the universe. What if we combine our abilities, our very essences, into a single harmonic force? The Keldari, its adaptive armor shimmering with potential, spoke up. A cosmic harmonic convergence, it said, the words carrying weight beyond their meaning. Theoretically possible, but never before attempted on this scale. Then we'll be the first, Jack said with determination, and hopefully not the last. As the team prepared for their desperate gambit, alarms blared throughout the station. The main view screen flickered to life, showing scenes of chaos across the galaxy. The void's influence was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. On countless worlds, beings of all species were undergoing spontaneous awakenings, their latent abilities triggered by the approaching cosmic threat. But for every newly empowered individual rising to face the darkness, dozens more succumbed to fear and panic. Jack realized that their plan needed to extend beyond just their small group. We need to broadcast a message, he said urgently, to every sentient being in the galaxy. We need to unite them in purpose, or the void will pick us off one by one. Zara's bioluminescence pulsed with inspiration. I can use my new abilities to tap into the quantum substructure of the universe. We can send a message instantly to every mind capable of receiving it. Do it, Jack nodded. As Zara began to glow with intense energy, Jack closed his eyes, reaching out with his expanded consciousness. He felt the minds of his companions joining with his, their thoughts and emotions merging into a singular purpose. When he spoke, his voice carried across the cosmos, resonating in the hearts and minds of trillions. People of the galaxy, hear me. We stand on the brink of annihilation, faced with a threat beyond imagination. But we are not powerless. Within each of us lies the potential to transcend our limitations, to become more than we ever dreamed possible. The void seeks to unmake all of existence, but we possess the power to rewrite reality itself. Our strength lies not in our individual abilities, but in our unity. Every species, every individual, is a unique note in the grand symphony of the cosmos. Join us now. Reach out with your minds, your hearts, your very souls. Let us create a cosmic harmonic convergence, a wave of unified consciousness to push back the darkness. Together, we can reforge the very fabric of existence. As Jack's words echoed across the galaxy, something miraculous began to happen. On world after world, beings of all species set aside their differences, their fears of ancient grudges. They reached out, mind to mind, soul to soul, creating a web of shared consciousness that spanned the cosmos. Back on Epsilon 9, Jack and his team became the focal point of this galactic joining. Energy beyond comprehension flowed through them, threatening to tear them apart at the subatomic level. But they held firm, their unified will creating an anchor point for the cosmic harmonic convergence. The void, sensing the rising power arrayed against it, lashed out with tendrils of unreality. Entire star systems winked out of existence in its wrathful advance. But for every light extinguished, a dozen more flared to life as newly awakened beings added their essence to the convergence. In the space between heartbeats, between the firing of synapses, the battle for existence itself was fought. Jack felt himself stretched across infinite realities, his consciousness expanded to encompass the totality of the cosmos. He saw the birth and death of universes, the intricate dance of quarks and quasars, the delicate balance that allowed reality itself to exist. And through it all, he felt the presence of countless others, not just his immediate companions, but every being that had joined the convergence. Their hopes, dreams, fears, and determination flowed through him, through each other, creating a tapestry of shared experience that defied description. As the cosmic harmonic convergence reached its crescendo, a wave of pure creation burst forth. It met the advancing tendrils of the void in a clash that shook the foundations of reality. For a moment that lasted an eternity, the two forces stood deadlocked, existence and unexistence perfectly balanced. Then, slowly but surely, the light began to push back the darkness. The void, for the first time in its unfathomable existence, knew fear. It lashed out wildly, trying to disrupt the convergence, but the unified will of an entire galaxy proved too strong. With a final, reality-shattering pulse, the cosmic harmonic convergence triumphed. The void was not destroyed. Such a force could never be truly unmade, but it was pushed back, sealed away in the spaces between universes, trapped by the very cosmic harmony it had sought to unravel. As the energy of the convergence faded, Jack found himself once again on the bridge of Epsilon 9. His companions stood around him, each forever changed by their experience. They looked at each other with new eyes, seeing not just physical forms, but the intricate quantum harmonies that made up their very beings. We did it, Zara breathed, her bioluminescence gently pulsing in time with the residual energies of the convergence. Jack nodded, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. We all did it. Every being in the galaxy played a part. As the team took stock of their victory, reports began flooding in from across the cosmos. The void's advance had been halted, reality preserved, but the effects of the cosmic harmonic convergence were only beginning to be understood. The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, explanations, and mind-bending demonstrations of newly awakened abilities. Jack and his team recanted their experiences, from the initial confrontation with Admiral Xanthar to the reality-shaking battle against the void. As they spoke, holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing the myriad ways the convergence had transformed societies across the galaxy. On the water world of Aquarius Prime, awakened cetaceans had developed city-sized thought bubbles that allowed them to create breathable atmospheres underwater. The silicon-based life forms of Crystallia now communicated through intricate lattices of quantum entanglement, their very bodies becoming living supercomputers. But it wasn't all progress and enlightenment. Reports came in of worlds where the sudden awakening had led to chaos, of individuals unable to cope with their new abilities, of entire ecosystems thrown into disarray by the shift in cosmic energies. This is why we need the Galactic Concord, Dr. Voss explained, to help guide this great awakening, to ensure that we use our new powers responsibly. As the conference progressed, Jack found himself at the center of a debate that would shape the future of the cosmos. Some, like the Voltairean hive mind, argued for the creation of a centralized galactic government to manage the distribution and use of cosmic powers. Others, led by the individualistic Zephyrians, pushed for a more decentralized approach, allowing each world to chart its own course through the new cosmic reality. Jack listened to all sides, his expanded consciousness allowing him to simulate countless potential futures. Finally, he stepped into the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, his presence immediately drawing all eyes. Friends, allies, fellow cosmic travelers, he began, his voice carrying the weight of his experiences. We stand at a crossroads unlike any species, has faced before. The power we now wield could reshape reality itself, for better or for worse. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we must remember that this power didn't come from some external source. It was always within us, within every sentient being. The convergence simply allowed us to access it. Jack's form began to glow, his body becoming a living representation of the cosmic forces at play. I propose a middle path, not a government, not anarchy, but a cosmic collective. A network of awakened minds, spanning the galaxy, working in harmony while respecting the unique paths of each world and individual. As he spoke, the assembled delegates felt the truth of his words resonating in their very beings. The holographic displays around them shifted, showing a vision of a galaxy interconnected by threads of quantum energy, each world a shining node in a vast cosmic web. Through this collective, Jack continued, we can share knowledge, balance powers, and face any threat that might arise. But more than that, we can explore the true potential of our awakened state. There are realities beyond our own, dimensions we've only begun to glimpse. Together, we can unlock the deepest secrets of existence itself. The assembly hall erupted in a chorus of agreement, not just verbal, but psychic. Minds linked across vast distances, sharing visions of a future brighter than any had dared to imagine. As the first galactic concord drew to a close, treaties were signed, alliances forged, and the foundations of the cosmic collective were laid. Earth, once a backwater world on the fringes of the galaxy, now stood as a shining beacon of unity and potential. Jack Carter, the unassuming janitor who had become the catalyst for cosmic change, gazed out at the assembled representatives of a united galaxy. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the buoyant lift of infinite possibility. So, Zara said, coming to stand beside him, her form shimmering with excited energy. What's next for the hero of the cosmos? Jack smiled, his eyes reflecting the swirling quantum possibilities that now made up his perception of reality. Hero? Nah, just a guy who was in the right place at the right time. As for what's next? He gestured to the star-filled sky, visible through the assembly hall's transparent dome. There's a whole multiverse out there waiting to be explored, and I've got a feeling our adventures are just getting started. As if in response to his words, a shimmering portal began to form in the center of the hall. Through it, glimpses of impossible landscapes and unimaginable wonders could be seen. The assembled delegates gasped in awe, their awakened senses perceiving realities beyond anything they had yet encountered. On countless worlds, beings of all species found themselves irrevocably changed. The awakening of latent abilities had become widespread, ushering in a new era of cosmic enlightenment. Ancient conflicts that had raged for millennia were being set aside as former enemies recognized the shared harmony that united them all. Admiral Xanthar, who had watched the entire event unfold in awestruck silence, approached Jack with a mix of reverence and fear. What happens now? He asked, his earlier bravado completely evaporated. Jack turned to face him, his eyes still glowing with the residual energy of the convergence. Now, he said, his voice carrying the weight of newfound wisdom, we rebuild, we explore, we grow. Not as separate species or competing factions, but as a united galactic community. He gestured to his diverse team. Look at what we accomplished when we came together. Imagine what we can achieve now that the entire galaxy has experienced that unity. As the first light of a new cosmic dawn bathed Epsilon 9 in its glow, Jack Carter, once an unassuming human janitor, now a linchpin of cosmic harmony, gazed out at the star-studded expanse. The galaxy sparkled with renewed vitality, each point of light representing not just stellar bodies, but the countless awakened minds that now called the cosmos home. The architect's final words echoed in his mind. The choice of how to proceed lies with you. Jack smiled, knowing that humanity and its alien allies had chosen wisely. The road ahead would not be easy, but they would face it together, their shared cosmic harmony lighting the way to a future brighter than any could have imagined. As Epsilon 9 began its journey back to Earth, carrying news of humanity's pivotal role in the galaxy's salvation, Jack knew that the true adventure was only just beginning. The age of cosmic enlightenment had dawned, and every being in the galaxy, from the smallest microorganism to the most advanced alien intellect, would play a part in shaping the harmonious future that awaited them all, the quantum renaissance. As Epsilon 9 approached Earth's orbit, Jack Carter stood at the helm, his consciousness simultaneously aware of the ship's systems and the cosmic symphony that now connected all sentient beings. The blue marble of humanity's homeworld grew larger in the view screen, unchanged yet irrevocably different in the wake of the cosmic harmonic convergence. "Home," Jack murmured, a complex mix of emotions coloring his voice. "But what does that even mean now?" Zara, her bioluminescent patterns mirroring the swirling clouds of Earth's atmosphere, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It means the beginning of something extraordinary," she said, her voice carrying the wisdom of 1,000 awakened stars. As Epsilon 9 began its descent, the team's quantum-enhanced senses detected a flurry of activity across the planet. The global awakening had transformed human society overnight, ushering in what historians would later call the quantum renaissance. Cities glowed with the pulsing energy of newly awakened minds. Towering spires of crystalline thought structures reached towards the sky, physical manifestations of humanity's expanded consciousness. In the streets below, people from all walks of life demonstrated abilities that defied classical physics: levitation, matter manipulation, and even localized time dilation. But it wasn't just the physical changes that caught Jack's attention. As they touched down in the heart of New Geneva, once the headquarters of the old United Nations, now the nexus of Earth's fledgling cosmic diplomacy efforts, he sensed a profound shift in the collective human psyche. Gone were the old divisions of nation, race, and creed. In their place, a new understanding had blossomed. Humanity had glimpsed its true potential, not as conquerors of the stars, but as harmonious notes in the grand cosmic orchestra. As the team disembarked, they were met by a welcoming committee unlike any in Earth's history. Holographic representatives from every nation stood alongside physical delegates, their forms shimmering with the raw potential of awakened minds. And among them, beings from 100 alien worlds, drawn to Earth by the psychic echo of the convergence. Dr. Ilara Voss, Earth's newly appointed Cosmic Harmony Ambassador, stepped forward. Her eyes, now swirling pools of quantum possibility, locked onto Jack's. "Welcome home, Catalyst," she said, her voice resonating on multiple levels of reality. "Your return marks the dawn of a new era for Earth and the galaxy at large." Jack nodded, still coming to terms with his role in the cosmic drama that had unfolded. "We did what was necessary," he said simply. "But the real work is just beginning." Dr. Voss smiled, an expression that seemed to ripple across dimensions. "Indeed, which is why we've gathered the brightest minds from across the cosmos. It's time for the first galactic concord." Jack's smile widened as he felt the familiar surge of cosmic energy coursing through him. He turned to his team, seeing the same mix of excitement and determination reflected in their faces. "Well, folks," he said, his voice carrying a hint of his old, easygoing humor, "shall we see what's on the other side?" With a shared nod of agreement, Jack Carter and his diverse team of cosmic explorers stepped towards the portal. As they passed through the shimmering threshold, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a living embodiment of the unity and potential that now bound all sentient beings across the cosmos. The quantum renaissance had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the grand story of existence itself. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.